This is Moshe coming to you from Israel in the Galilee on January 6th. It's a Monday. This is the day they're going to ratify Trump's electoral votes, and constitutionally, the vice president is in charge of this. Kamala Harris is her, and is she, I guess. And the curious thing about this, and I'm not getting into a conspiracy thing, it's just curious, is that the snow is hitting DC, or expected to hit today, or it already has. And they're expecting a foot of snow. So a lot of the congressmen took off. They were asked not to, but they got out of town. So this could be interesting, but I don't think they planned it. How could they plan the snowstorm, So I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm not expecting anything unusual. That's my opinion. So today we're going to go through what's going on with Israel. We're daily, or just about daily, attacking Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza. And we'll talk about the ceasefires in Lebanon and Gaza, which are pretty dismal at this point. And Iran is moving missiles to the western portion of Iran, which southwestern is Elam, which is prophesied in Jeremiah 49. It's part of Iran. So that's interesting, but we've seen them move missiles around many times and nothing happens. Okay, I'm going to jump into the live stream and make sure we got a live stream and we got sound and picture. Many times and nothing. Okay, we got sound and picture. And I'm going to put up a few fast posts while people are coming in. So I'll be a little silent so I don't make typos. And I'll get my email address up if you want to send prayer requests in, or toss requests, or whatever you might want to do. Okay, I'll pin that up and get going. Well, it's not a big turnout so far. Well, we'll see. Probably get busy today. I'm going to do some praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 I'm going to also get into some spiritual stuff today too. Okay? It's coldish and sunny. For us, it's like mid-50s. That's cold because we're used to mid-80s and 90s, so it's cold. And Chief's doing good. I try to spend way more time with them than I used to. And let's get into it. So we hit another ammo weapons depot in Syria, and this would likely not cause casualties. I didn't hear of any. So we're continuing to do this. The HTS, new government of Syria, is irritated about it, but we don't care. They are a potential enemy. They're Al Qaeda and ISIS with a new paint job. That's all it is. Okay? And it's going to eventually blow up, or they're going to go away. They're not stable. The country's not stable. By every understanding that I have, they're broke. I don't understand. I mean, they're running around with paper money, which is worthless, and they could go, make everybody, well, you could only buy goods in the country using, Syrian pesos or whatever they call them, And that is probably how they're running the place. Okay. But they're going to have money problems. They already do. A few countries are opening their embassies up over there, et cetera, et cetera. But they're still picking on the Alawites. They're picking on Assad's people, Alawite and non-Alawite. Different groups are going against different groups. The Druze villages near Israel want to join Israel. Oh my gosh. And we're occupying a generous swath of land to keep a very good buffer zone. I think it's a good 30 miles, which is going to stop anything except medium range and above serious missiles. And those missiles are generally going to require radar to guide them. In other words, the Katyusha rockets that they frequently use go 8 or 12 miles typically, and that isn't going to do anything except hit the villages of their own people, which is likely going to push people closer to civil war against them, so they're probably not interested in that. Okay? Iran, to the best of my intel, when I pick up, is doing next to nothing about it except possibly working subvertly to try to raise a revolution in Syria. We've cut off numerous avenues of getting weapons from Iran into Iraq, into Syria, into Lebanon. So from Syria to Lebanon, we've cut that stuff down probably by at least 95% or more. The latest thing we did is there's roads they use to go from Syria to adjacent Lebanon, and we've been putting barricades of earth up on the road, multiple. So in other words, you go stack earth up, 30, 40 feet, kind of like a backstop for an outdoor shooting range, if you know what I'm talking about. And then how the heck do you get the vehicle through? Well, you'd have to sit there with a shovel or get a backhoe or something like that. And our drones and aircraft and boots on the ground would see it, and we would stop it. So that's not, the avenue in there, which is a two-way street, is closed. The situation in Lebanon looks like there's a 60-day ceasefire, which is over, I believe, the 26th of January, almost a week after Trump would be president. And that's good timing for Israel. And the Hezbollah are acting up again. I'm seeing pictures of them driving around in Lebanon with pickup trucks with missile launchers on the back without missiles. And, things of this nature. And they're opening their mouth, and the Lebanese government, as a condition of the ceasefire, was supposed to occupy southern Lebanon with their army and get rid of any weapons there are and keep any of the people out of there. In general, all the people, because you don't know, Hezbollah puts on a civilian suit and grabs their wife and kids and, hey, I'm just Mustafa, I want to go back and check on my goats, So they're all out of there. and we're keeping them out. The Lebanese army isn't. They're failing. We notified them of a weapons depot in the south of the Litani River, and they did nothing about it, so we blew it up. So this is a condition of the ceasefire that has not been met, and our Minister of Defense, Katz, is probably 3 times more aggressive than Gallant, who was a loser. And Gallant is going down memory lane into, his political career is nothing anymore, I would say. And he's very plainly stating that this breach of the ceasefire could mean the end of the ceasefire, which means that we're just going to go in and go very far north of the Litani River with our bombing and missile attacks. I would say right up to the Turkish border, okay? And just start blowing up anything and everything that we can label to Hezbollah. And we have excellent intel, and we probably know at least 75-80% of those sites now, and we could increase our intel as needed. So this situation is dismal. Hochstein, who is not a very accomplished negotiator, is going to be in Lebanon today, I think. There's a presidential election coming up in Lebanon, I think, at the end of the week. And he's going to propose to them that the ceasefire be extended from 60 to 90 days. My first question is, what ceasefire? It's already been breached. The second thing that I think is going on here is they want to compel Israel to sign a ceasefire of 90 days with Lebanon, not Hezbollah. We're not signing with Hezbollah, we signed with Lebanon, and they failed to comply with the first 60-day ceasefire. So Israel's going to say, reflexively, Israel's going to say, well, if they put their army in and do what they said they did, we'll extend it. What's the point of extending a breached ceasefire? See, this is the problem with a guy like Hochstein, who's not the sharpest pencil in the box, okay, or doesn't want to be. Biden never fired him. He never fired Blinken. And maybe he doesn't want them to succeed. So they're actually performing as directed by the Biden administration. And people think they're failing. But if they were failing, they probably would have been replaced, don't you think? So it appears it's a sham. The motive behind the Biden administration would mean Israel can't really play wipeout on Lebanon until Trump is president for 36 days, not 6 days. Okay. Trump is saying his first meeting with Putin is going to be in March. See, now this is a very consistent with what I've been telling you. Trump gets in on the 20th, assuming all goes well. Big assumption, but assuming that, then what? Well, then he's got to start getting Congress to approve his appointments for Secretary of State, education, housing, all of this, right? Security and the defense minister, the Secretary of Defense. And then when Congress approves them, and I don't know how fast that could be, if Congress wants to really elevate it, they could do it in, I don't think in a day, but, 2, 3, 4 days or something. Then they first get in. So they got to move into the office, run around, shake hands, tell everybody how great it's going to be. Then they start taking their Assistant Secretary of Defense, Now, Assistant Secretary of Defense, there could be 12 or 15 or 20 of these characters, So they got to start changing all of these people. And the guys that Trump is putting in have no experience in the office, typically. Trump is basing his theory on the guy's a billionaire, he has to know what he's doing. Well, He's a billionaire because he's deep state. And then Trump turns around and says, well, I'm going to dismantle the deep state. Well, that's kind of absurd, don't you think? You got billionaires running around that are not deep state. How did they become billionaires? How come they weren't dismantled and caught by their enemies? Come on, wake up. So then when Trump gets his people in, which could easily, take 2 or 3 weeks, don't kid yourself. It could take a month, okay? Then they got to start appointing their people, which does not need congressional approval. They just appoint them, as far as I know. And then they got to show up for work and shake hands and get their secretary and start having bureaucratic meetings and get the flow of policy going. And, guys, let's get real. It's going to take them a month when they get in to get good control over their agency. And it's not going to be great control. It's going to be some control. Now, this has to happen in many, many, many government agencies, including Justice, Department of Justice. Treasury is important, A lot of these things are important. Then they could start to begin to run the country the way they want. That's why he's telling Putin will meet in March. He doesn't want to get distracted with Putin until he has his people in place. He's smart. That's reality. Trump understands that as a businessman on a large order. He understands this, okay? Now, as I keep telling you, the country's at its most vulnerable point, not now, but January 20th till probably March 20th, it's going to be very vulnerable. January 20th to February 20th, for sure, things are going to be very, very not highly coordinated over there with all the changes. You got to be aware of this. The media won't tell you this, but when you think about it, you're going to know I'm right. Just think about it. Let me take a look at the chat and see if the garbage came in yet. I've been listening to large channels, 6 digits, and they got the same problems that I do with these, the ones that talk about God. They got the same problems I got with the heck was coming in with nasty comments. Yeah, is that you, Hefner? It's a really bright person. Okay. They just pop in, put a nasty comment up, and move on. They know you're going to block them. But when you keep blocking them, you thin the herd. There's not that many of them. Okay. So what's going on in Gaza is they were managing to build some junky Katyusha type rockets. I think they even tried a medium range, but they were predominantly not launching correctly, falling in Gaza, and whatever they did manage to launch that did leave Gaza got taken down by us across the board. So they're a harassment, but eventually they may figure out how to get these missiles working better. So we've been bombing and attacking in Gaza, aggressively. So we're still fighting in Syria, not so much anymore. And we're fighting in Gaza at probably a medium or a light medium level. And we're fighting in Lebanon on a light level, occasionally striking targets, or maybe even light medium because we're occupying South Lebanon. So I don't see anything but a ceasefire falling apart in Lebanon. Probably Netanyahu's waiting for Trump to get sworn in, which is 2 full weeks. It's going to be a tough 2 weeks. There's a lot of powerful countries in the world that don't want to see Trump get in. China, North Korea, Iran, Russia, and then you got the Muslim terrorist states in the Middle East, and you got Venezuela, and you got Cuba, and who knows who else. You know? It's critical right now. You know, I'm sure the Secret Service has thousands of people operating to protect Trump, and the FBI and Homeland Security and the Pentagon and the CIA and NSA. They're probably all working. If you add it all up, I wouldn't be surprised if there were 2,000 or 3,000 people in various ways operating to make sure Trump stays safe. My opinion, but I think I'm right. Did a little spiritual warfare. I sensed something. Hold on a minute. Somebody's writing me about prayers or something. Okay, guys, let me explain something. Spiritual warfare and prayers, they are not the same thing. It's like apples and bananas. They are not the same thing. And you guys need to get this down. If you're going to mature, you need to do your own spiritual warfare. If I keep carrying, I don't mind doing it once or twice maybe for somebody till they get in the swing of things. But if I start carrying you and having us do the spiritual warfare, I'm now your enemy. I am. Because I'm not letting you grow and develop. Do I have a scripture? I do. And I'm going to read it right now. And yes, it's foreign to the church, and the church doesn't teach this and everything else, but that's not on me, that's on the church. Mark 16, 17. And these signs shall follow them that believe. In my name shall they cast out devils. Now, if you don't want to do that, or you can't do it, or you're afraid to do it, or whatever reason you don't want to do it, are you a believer? These signs shall follow them that believe. In my name they shall cast out devils. It's pretty strong. You can't ride on our coattails on this. Do it yourself. What are you afraid of? Let me find the scripture for you. Hold on. It may take a minute to get. We're going to have a lot of spiritual stuff mixed in today, by the way. Now I'm in Revelation 21, verse 7. He that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. Overcometh. But the fearful, the unbelieving, and the abominable, and the murderers, and the whoremongers, and the sorcerers, and the idolaters, and all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. Now, who does not get in to heaven and New Jerusalem, really? The fearful, the unbelieving, the abominable. Now, we need to understand this word abominable. Let's go to Strong. The word in the Greek, Strong's number Greek 948. It means to be disgusted, detest, especially of an idol, abhor, abominable. Okay. The word seems to be tied to doing things that are abominable. Now in Acts 10, God said, he lowered the sheet down for Peter 3 times with unclean animals on it and said, don't call unclean what I called clean. So if this was pertaining to people that were so-called goyim or non-Israelites eating unclean food, the meaning of abominable makes no sense, because then Yeshua would be saying, well, they're abominable, but I cleaned them. Do you understand that? Do you got it? It doesn't mean eating unclean food. Where you get your hint on this is the abomination of desolation. It's a disgusting idol. Idols are disgusting and they're an abomination. You got that? Disgusting, stinking. This is where the word is routed. Okay? So the fearful, are you afraid to toss demons out? Well, that's not a sign of them that believe. So what's going on here? Unbelieving, the abominable, the murderers, the whoremongers, sorcerers, idolaters, all liars shall have their part in the lake which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. It never mentions those that are eating unclean food, does it? The word unclean doesn't appear here. All right. So the other thing so I'm doing you a disservice when I start carrying people who are afraid to do the demon tossing. Now, people want help in doing the demon tossing. They're doing it and they want us to join in also to make a heavy duty compounded attack so the unclean spirits don't know where it's coming from, because it's coming from all over the globe, or the world. It's not a globe, the world, the earth. That we do. But, prayer is one thing. If you're supposed to be doing your spiritual warfare and you're not, then maybe your prayer's not working because you're supposed to take care of this yourself. God is trying to grow you up. And fear is not of the Lord. Now, let's take an example. People of, oh, America might be the daughter of Babylon. It is, but they say, well, maybe, let's pray that God gives us mercy and doesn't do it. You see, this is praying against written prophecy. Can God deviate from written prophecy because people ask him to do so? Then he's making himself a false prophet. Am I wrong? And he can't do that. So you cannot pray against prophecy. What about, well, maybe he'll postpone it or delay it or something? It's all set in his timing, which we don't have, but he has it all laid out. Now, what can you pray? You can pray for mercy and grace, and I suggest you do so on yourself, and if you want your family, and if you want your friends, go for it. But don't start praying for prophecy to not get fulfilled. Why are you doing this? I mean, are you going to go to lake of fire for this? No, because most of you don't understand that. But as you're going to be growing in the Lord, you need to understand that. Okay? There's all kinds of stupid things. Like you could say a couple of guys just get out of jail, and believers in jail, and then they get out and they say, hey, Lord, we're broke. We don't have any money. Could you show us which bank we should rob? Well, of course, God's not going to answer that. Okay? But, you got issues, and you have to be mature in the Lord. There's people don't know any better than new believers. So you got to understand the difference between new believers and not knowing any better. But sometimes the not knowing any better have been believers for 20 years. But you got to have discernment and understand this. You can't just go start smacking them. You got to understand what you're dealing with. Okay? You got to watch that. All right? You got to not drop down on people that don't know any better. That would be more like a trespass offering than a sin offering. They did something wrong and they didn't know they did something wrong. All right? They don't have good teachers today. They don't exist. You got me, but the teachers, I'll read you this scripture in Malachi, and this is probably one of the most inflammatory scriptures that I could read. If you want to turn people off, this is the one to use in the church world. It's not going to turn off the real believers that have the true gospel. And now, O you Kohanim, which is the priests, the Levites that are descended from Aaron, okay, this commandment is for you. If you will not hear, if you will not lay it to heart, to give glory unto my name, saith Jehovah of armies, I will even send a curse upon you, and I will curse your blessings. Yea, I have cursed them already, because you do not lay it to heart. Behold, now, how many people on the internet do you know that praise Jehovah and Yeshua before they start? Don't you think they should? They don't want to scare people away, maybe, huh? You think about that? Behold, I will corrupt your seed and spread dung upon your faces, even the dung of your solemn feasts, and one shall take you away with it. And you shall know that I have sent this commandment. That's a mitzvah. That's a commandment. It's a mitzvah. Those are the commandments of the law, are called mitzvot, which is the plural of mitzvah. Unto you that my covenant, that word is brit. New Testament, it's testament. The New Testament is Brit Chadashah, new Brit. Okay. Might be with Levi, saith Jehovah of hosts. Well, you start telling the church that God has a covenant, a Brit with Levi, they're finished with you because they are replacement theology. They're done with this. But God's not done with it, is he? So they're opposing God. They are not of the faith. The church world is not of the faith. The Mormons use the Bible. The Jehovah's Witnesses use the Bible. The Christian Scientists use the Bible. So do they. Doesn't mean anything. And you shall know that I have sent this commandment unto you, that my covenant may be with Levi. The Levites, saith Jehovah of hosts. My covenant was with him of life and peace, and I gave them to him for fear wherewith he feared me, and was afraid before my name. The law of truth, that word for law is Torah. Okay, you heard of that word before, Torah? And the word for truth is emet, and I think it means in truth, but you could say law, truth, was in his mouth, and lawlessness was not found in his lips. He walked with me in peace, that's shalom, and equity, and did turn many away from lawlessness. For the Kohanim, or the priest's lips, should keep knowledge. Knowledge. That word is da'at. Strong's puts it into English how? He uses the word knowledge, and then he also says cunning. Do I not teach you cunning ways of doing spiritual warfare? And did turn many away from lawlessness. For the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law at his mouth. For he is the Malach of the Lord, the messenger of the Lord of hosts. Now tell me how you get to all these pastors running around the world. They're not Levites, they're not Kohanim. They don't preach the gospel. They preach another gospel, and they preach another Jesus, the December 25th version. Mass for Christ's Day, and all this. Do you understand how phony baloney it all is? And that's affecting 2 billion people. Now let me read this again to you and make a point that I've made a few times, and some of you may not have gotten it. For the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law at his mouth, for he is the Malach, the messenger of the Lord of hosts. The Malach, the messenger of the Lord of hosts. Now, let's read about Elijah in the next chapter. (3:1). My wife sees fit to cut wood with a chainsaw. I have to see if she's going to stop. I don't know why she's doing it now. Behold, I will send my Malach, my messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. Isn't that what Elijah does? Of course. John the Baptist had the spirit of Elijah and prepared the way for Yeshua when he was on the earth. This is Elijah, back on earth. He never died. He went up in a whirlwind so he could die again. He's one of the 2 witnesses. I don't know how she could do that during the broadcast. I don't understand. Behold, I will send my Malach, and he shall prepare the way before me. That's why I'm telling you that Elijah has to be a Kohanim, a descendant of Aaron. Some of you may get more out of this than others, but that's between you and the Lord. And we're going to have to shut the window for this good behavior here. Let's see if that makes a difference. I don't know how she could think that's okay to do, but shall suddenly come to, okay, it says, and the Adonai, that's a softer word for Lord, shall suddenly come to his temple. Even now, that's the glory of God of Israel coming to the temple. Then it switches back and it says, even the Malach, the messenger of the covenant, whom you delight in, behold, he shall come, saith Jehovah of hosts. That's the messenger of the covenant. You see, you probably don't know this. The Jews all believe Elijah is going to come and teach them Torah, not Talmud, Torah. And they're right. Okay? They're right. Going to probably start with Yeshua, maybe Isaiah 53. But they celebrate Elijah in a way. On Pesach, Passover, they have the Passover Seder, and they leave a place setting for Elijah. They put a plate down, they put silverware down, they put a wine goblet, and they fill it up with wine for him. And if they feel it's safe enough, they leave the door open for him to come in. Now, this is not biblical. This is hokey-pokey stuff, but that's what they do. Remember the movie Fiddler on the Roof? Tradition. Takanot, I think is the right word for it in Hebrew. Tradition, not Bible. Tradition. Tradition. Okay. He was a Mossad agent, that guy, by the way. He's dead, but who may abide the day of his coming, and who shall stand when he appeareth? For he is like a refiner's fire, and like a full of soap, and he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, the Levites, and purge them. He calls them the sons because there was an original guy, one of Jacob's sons, called Levi. The sons of Levi, and purge them with gold and silver, and that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offerings of Judah and Jerusalem, that's who's here now. This is pre-Great Exodus. This is apparently, to me, pre-redemption. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's pre-redemption. Be pleasant unto Jehovah as in the days of old, as in the former years. And I will come near to you to judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, the adulterers, the false swearers, against those that oppress the hireling, the workers in his wages, the widow and the fatherless that turn aside the stranger from his right, and fear not me, saith Jehovah of hosts. Now, where does this take you? Don't expect the church to ever teach you this. It takes you to the next chapter, I believe. No, it takes you to Zechariah 13, verse 8. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith Jehovah, 2 parts therein shall be cut off, 2/3. and die. But the third shall be left therein. But I will bring the third part through the fire and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call upon my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Jehovah Elohim. Now, back to Malachi 3. And he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto Jehovah an offering in righteousness. Then shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto Jehovah, as in the days of old, as in the former years. And I will come near to you to judgment, and I will be a swift witness against the sorcerers, the adulterers, the false swearers, against those that oppress the hireling in his wages, the widow and the fatherless, oppressing them, and turn aside the stranger from his right, and fear not me, saith Jehovah of hosts. It sounds like the same, doesn't it? But they never teach you this. Never. They don't want you to have a clue about Israel's redemption, which is perhaps days away. They don't want you to know. Now, you could hate me for telling you that, but I'd rather have you hate me for telling you that than get in trouble with God for not telling you that. And if you reject knowledge, Yeshua's going to reject you. That's a scripture. It's up to you. You have two paths. You have a path to righteousness and everlasting life in heaven with Jehovah and Yeshua. And you have another path to everlasting death in the lake of fire with Satan and the demons and the pastors and the false prophets. And you pick. It's up to you. It's not up to me. South Wales. Okay. Somebody did this right. Shalom to all who love Yeshua and his Father. 2 John 9:11. This is cunning that I'm showing you. 2 John 9:11. If there come any unto you and bring not this doctrine, that's the doctrine of the Bible. Remember what Timothy was told by Paul, by your doctrine you will save yourself and others that hear you. That's in the scriptures. Doctrine is super important. Bring not this doctrine, receive him not into your house, neither bid him Godspeed. Godspeed is giving him a greeting. So, little immature S-bots come in here and say, give me a shout out, give a shout out to my brother. They're trying to get me to give a greeting to some S-bot or someone else. You see, they know this scripture. The churches are ignorant of Satan's devices, but those of you that have been with me are not. That's knowledge, cunning at the lips of the Kohanim. I have the Holy Spirit. I'm in Israel where God says that's where he accepts you. You could read it in Ezekiel 20, starting at verse 33. It's in other places. Okay? And I'm a Kohanim. And people hate me for saying that. Well, what about Pastor Mary or Pastor Steve? Gosh, some of these people are going to get saved. We all came out of the church. But it's so frustrating for over 10 years to be preaching and seeing these people and they reject everything. And it's sad, really. It's really sad. For he that biddeth him Godspeed is a partaker of his evil deeds. So this person did it the right way. I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach and his father Jehovah. That's the best thing you could do. It's a good biblical greeting, and they try to trap you with it. What do people do when they call you on the phone? They answer the phone. Hello. That's giving them a greeting. Look up the meaning of hello. What do? I answer the phone. I say yes. Or you can answer it and say mise, or in English, who's this? Just pick up the phone and say, who's this? You'll see a lot of telemarketers stumble. They'll hang up on you. They're witches. They're sorcerers. They're putting spells on you to try to get you to buy crap. And they want you to say hello. You'll have some of them, try it yourself. Some of them get on the phone, they'll say hello, hello, hello. And I'll just say, who's this? Or what do you want? Who you looking for? I don't give them a greeting. Why in the heck would I? Now I'm opening the door to the devil. I'm giving place to the devil. And then there's witchcraft, sorcery, spells, enchantments are going to probably work to some extent. The whole system is stacked against you. You walk over, you meet somebody, you shake hands, glad to meet you, good to know you. That's a greeting. The whole world is steeped in wickedness, and we're not ignorant of Satan's devices, but I'm sorry to say the church world is. If the people in the churches were not ignorant of Satan's devices, they'd never step foot in the place. I'd no sooner step foot in the church than I would an opium den or a whorehouse. You want another scripture? 2 Corinthians 11:4. You need to be doing this with other people. For if he that cometh preached another Jesus, whom we have not preached, or if you received another spirit, an unclean spirit, which you have not received from them, basically, or another gospel, which you have not accepted, you might well bear with him. So in other words, what's another gospel you've never accepted? Oh, their church I go to is pre-trib, but I know that's poppycock. It's really post-trib. It's not. It's the last day. Yeshua said it 4 times. John 6:39, John 6:40, 44, and 54. The last day means there's no more days. It's after the millennium's over, Satan's released, gathers them like the sand of the sea. Father God, Jehovah, comes down from heaven. Yeshua's in New Jerusalem at the time down here. Comes down from heaven, burns everything up, the whole universe. There's nothing left to stand on. We meet him in the air, and we go up on the clouds to heaven, and the dead are raised at that time. That's when the rapture is. There is a rapture. It's the last day. Yeshua said it 4 times. So, they're a pre-trib rapture. I don't believe in pre-trib, but I'll go anyway. We shouldn't be condemning people about that, Okay, so that's you're accepting another gospel which you have not accepted. You bear well with them. How can 2 walk together if they're not agreed? How? But why do you go there? Can you receive another unclean spirit? An unclean spirit in the church? Yeah. If you receive another spirit which you have not received. They go in there and then people come up when they swear them into the church or whatever they call it, indoctrinate them as a member of the church or any other reason. People in the audience or members of the church come up and lay hands on them. And these are spots in the church witches that are passing unclean spirits into them. Lay hands suddenly on no man. Well, it works the other way around. If they lay hands on you, you lay hands on them, they could pass an unclean spirit to you, or vice versa. They're ignorant of Satan's devices. And they come in here and they try to pull cheap spiritual evil parlor tricks on us, and it doesn't work here. And they're confused because they never encountered people like us. They think everybody is a dumbbell, like in the churches. The churches are dumbbells. They don't know what they're doing in there. They're the blind leading the blind. The pastors think they got some sort of covenant with death and hell, which the Bible says will be disannulled. And they take advantage of the people. It's just a spiritual whorehouse. That's all it is. And people put up with it. Come out from among them. Touch not the unclean thing. Why are they unclean? Because they were near a menstrual woman or a dead body. Or how about they have unclean spirits in them? Would that make you unclean? If you have an unclean spirit in you, are you unclean? Think about that, please. If you have an unclean spirit in you, does that make you unclean? Of course. Think about it. I had no idea I was doing any of this today. It's coming out good because it ain't me, it's the Lord. Now, you can always ask questions in the live stream. So if you see stuff coming in your area or country and you want to pray, I would say, if it's not something prophetic, you can pray about it, But if it's a prophecy, you shouldn't pray against it. God's not going to throw you in the lake of fire for that, but you should be past such things. But do pray for mercy and grace and peace for the true believers. And you could do that for your friends and family too if you want, and your animals and pets and all that. Why not, But don't try to get prophecy reversed. You can't do that. How could you do that? You'd be making God a false prophet. You can't. You got to get this stuff down. Mature believers need to think this way. I know they don't teach this stuff, but I do. You got to get this stuff down. Okay? And you got to come into the kingdom like a child. You know nothing. I know nothing. We all know nothing. Okay? God knows so much more than we do. We can't even understand how much he knows. We have no grasp. How can he see the end from the beginning? I mean, we don't know. That's what's coming like a child is. The child trusts his father, doesn't understand how things work. Daddy, it's too hot in my room. I can't sleep. And the daddy puts the air conditioning on. Does the kid that's 3 or 4 years old understand air conditioning? I think it's time I have a word here about the noise, because it's not stopping. It's ridiculous already. Let me get the window back open. I like the fresh air, even though it's cold. All right, we should have peace and quiet now. Okay, let me get back onto my notes because there was a lot of stuff I needed to cover. Okay, this is a big one here. The Trans-Pacific Express cable, internet cable, that connects Taiwan and America was cut, I believe, yesterday. Could be maybe 36 hours ago or even 48 hours ago, but very recent. The details about this are very confusing. It involves some Taiwanese and there were Chinese nationals mixed into this mess. Okay? Very confusing situation, but a number of Chinese nationals were mixed into this mess. This is a very important cable. So I again reiterate, be prepared for the internet to go out. Russia's doing it, China's doing it, the Yemen Houthis have done it. Get ready for it. Okay? When you read when the people leave the daughter of Babylon, America, to come to Israel, they give the people in Israel a report of the vengeance of God on America. So that tells me there's no television and there's no internet. What does it tell you? Should be the same thing, right? So Moshe's days on the internet are not that long, but I do keep coming back to the same thing, that you guys are going to be here soon. There's going to need, Elisha had the school of the prophets, remember, in Kings, the book of Kings, right? He's more than likely not going to be doing everything himself. Needs people with the true gospel. What's he going to do? Have people come here and teach the pre-trib rapture? Tell them they got to build a building, get a building fund, and build the church. You know, put a cross up, you know. Have a singing Christmas tree in Jerusalem. You understand? Okay. Do I have a scripture for that? I know the scripture says in Malachi 3, Malachi 3, there's a lot of real believers in Jerusalem at that time. There's not now. The Messianic congregations are nothing but Jewish churches. They're not any better. Okay. In a few days, like by Wednesday, Trudeau in Canada is expected to resign. I spoke to a person in Canada who told me that a lot of the Canadians are taking Trump, you know, saying to Trudeau that you're like a governor and, you know, Canada should be a 51st state of America and stuff like that. And he was saying it about Mexico also, and probably Greenland, because he said he wanted to buy Greenland back. Now that's Trump trying to build a buffer zone around America from its enemies. That Canada and Mexico would stop a ground invasion. Okay? Got it? Egypt violated the Sinai Peninsula ceasefire with Israel by beginning to erect barriers, military barriers, in the middle of the Sinai Peninsula, which are used to stop military advances of an enemy army. This is a violation of the actual ceasefire with Israel. So, what's going on here? Well, what I think is going on here is predominantly, not exclusively, predominantly, Egypt. It's coming out now, it's official. Egypt is going to join America and the UK. They didn't say Israel. America and the UK in attacking Yemen. Egypt has lost about 60%, or around $6 billion, I think, of their revenue coming in from tolls from ships crossing the Suez Canal. So they are rather peeved at the Houthis. They're losing $500 million a month, and Egypt is not a country overflowing with silver and gold. $500 million a month is a lot for them. They're not happy. I would say it's a given that they're going to join in. It's going to take the form of airstrikes, but this structuring they're doing in the Sinai Peninsula could be to stop some sort of ground invasion the Houthis try to do to get even with Egypt. The Houthis can't do a ground invasion on America or the UK. How the heck are they going to do that? Could they do it on Israel? Well, they would have to go through the Sinai Peninsula to get to Gaza, then to get into Israel, something like that. They could do it different ways, but Egypt they could get at easier in different routes and stuff like that. So I think that's what Egypt is trying to do. Could it also be prepping for a war with Israel? Yeah, but probably not. It would be airstrikes from Israel. I'm not thinking that's what's going on. Not at this point in time. All the U.S. bases in America have suddenly had significant increases in their security. All the American bases, Air Force, Navy, so something's going on. They're worried about something. They're not necessarily going to tell you, but what they're worried about could be that America's going to hit Iran, which I think they're going to do before Trump gets sworn in, or get Israel to do it, or both. Israel is currently attacking Yemen, Gaza, Lebanon, and Syria, 4 countries. We're not exactly at peace. We're not living without bars and walls and peace and safety in Ezekiel 38. What they're saying, by the way, this is good intel. Russia moved the last of their Navy warships out of their base in Latakia, Syria on the Mediterranean. It happened to coincidentally have been a submarine. Now 100% of the Russian warships have departed from that base. And Russia moved these warships into Libya. So Libya is named in Ezekiel 38 and 39, the so-called Gog and Magog war. But the knuckleheads that sit around that play I know the Bible that tell you this don't understand that the Libya of the Bible days is not the Libya of today. Libya was all the land between Egypt and Morocco. Okay, so that includes several other countries today. And I researched that. And I'll tell you what they are. So the Libya today is contained in the old days Bible Libya, but it would also include Tunisia and Algeria is a very big country, and possibly parts of Chad or Niger, Niger. So there's some pretty big inconsistency here with saying it's Ezekiel 38. The geography is wrong. And the time is wrong. It's out of sync all over the place. This is not Gog and Magog days. It's Zechariah 12. So they're talking about a pact between the nations that are attacking Israel in the Gog and Magog days. And they're saying Rosh is in it, which is Russia, they say, this kind of thing. But you should just ignore that. And in addition, there's a character named Deagle, like Beagle with a D, Deagle. And he came forth with a prophecy a number of years ago stating that like half of America or 2/3 of Europe or 2/3 of America and half of Europe, something like that, would be destroyed in 2025. Now, who the heck is this guy? So I went to try to get to his website. They said he put it up on his website and then it was taken down. Okay, so his website is deagle.com. Let's see, I tried it earlier. The website was not operating. Let me try it again. This site can't be reached. Okay. Let me get off of an Israel IP address, get into another IP address, and see if it lets me in. Because some of these are Israel hating sites. Let's see if this works. No. No. I came at it with an American IP address that says the same thing. So the site's down. So who the heck is this guy? I don't know who he is. Let's see. Let me get off this proxy thing. All right, let's see if we can find out anything on who this guy is. Oh, this guy did a forecast by country. Let's see if it's up on any other sites. I never heard of this guy. That's a download. I'm not downloading it. There's another one. Deagle confirms prophecy of the fall of Babylon. All right. I don't know who this guy is. I wouldn't pay any attention to it. You know, I know we got Jeremiah 30 verse 11 where God's going to destroy all the nations he scattered the Israelites into, but that's going to be rather substantial. And the Israelites, and that's also in Jeremiah 46:28. Perhaps I should read it. I'll read it out of Jeremiah 46:28 for variety, okay? Jeremiah 46:28, and this is unfulfilled, of course. Fear thou not, O Jacob my servant, saith Jehovah, for I am with thee, Jacob is the 12 tribes, is what it means. I am with thee, for I will make a full end of all the heathen nations, whither I have driven thee. But I will not make a full end of thee, but correct thee in measure, yet will I not leave thee wholly unpunished. Well, we're punished plenty, especially recently here. Life here is very difficult. Okay, so yeah, I know this is going to happen, but who are the nations that he scattered the Israelites into? Well, I'm reasonably knowledgeable about it. We can trace it from everything from Canada to Argentina. Had them and has them. That's Canada, U.S., Mexico, everything in Central South America, and the Caribbean, as far as I know, most or all of the Caribbean. Every country in Europe, many in the Middle East, and some in Asia. Antarctica, I know nothing about one way or the other. So, yeah. But I mean, I don't buy this guy's numbers, and it sure looks to me like it's going to be in 2025. But he didn't mention Central and South America, the Caribbean, the Asian countries, Middle Eastern countries. So I wouldn't pay too much attention to this guy. People are promoting it. It's rather silly to me. How many non-Jewish prophets are there in the Bible, huh? Good question. Hamas sent a list of 34 hostages to Israel without telling Israel who's alive. See, I've been harping on this for months. What I think, and I think Netanyahu probably is of the same belief because he's not putting much emphasis on the hostages, is that they're all dead or mostly all dead, and they might have 4 or 5. So if they won't tell Israel which of the 34 hostages they want to exchange are alive. So they intend to do an exchange of dead bodies. I'm serious. Now, let's analyze this, especially in light of what Trump said. If you don't return the hostages before January 20th, well, hell's going to break loose. And Trump, in my opinion, it's just an opinion, has every intention of making good on this. So what do? Do they tell Israel, hey, we got 5 hostages alive? Israel suspects there's about 100 there. How many are living, we don't know. They split them up and put them in people's houses. So how the heck are we going to know? And if they go back to Israel and say, look, there's only 5 living hostages, what happens in Israel? Well, the hate level for Hamas and Gaza goes up probably 300%, if not 3,000%. And with Trump getting into office, boy oh boy, hell will rain down on Gaza, and they know that. So what I think they're trying to do is dupe Israel into some sort of cockamamie ceasefire peace deal with these idiots. And then when Trump, then the cat will get let out of the bag. They'll deliver, if there's 34 hostages, they might deliver 29 coffins and 5 people. And they'll say, well, you made the deal with us, now you got to stick by it. Then they'll go to Trump and say, well, they made a deal with us, they got to stick by it. It's a pretty stupid thing. Netanyahu's not that stupid. Neither are the heads of the IDF. Nobody's going to go for that. So I believe they know what I'm telling you, and they know there's not many live hostages. They can't prove it to the people, and they don't want to see an uprising. What would happen in the uprising is this: the people in the West Bank, the Israelites that live there, which is, I don't know, 400,000 or 500,000, practically all of them have guns, because it's very easy to get a gun if you live in the West Bank. You just got to prove you live in the West Bank and you're not a criminal and you're not a lunatic and you're not taking psychiatric medicine. Very simple to get a gun. They got guns. They will start killing the Palestinians, and the soldiers are going to be afraid to stop them. Not that they're going to kill the soldiers. Soldiers are going to say they're killing the people that killed the hostages. What am I going to do? Shoot them? My brothers? I'm not going to shoot them. The soldiers will do nothing. They know that, and I know that. The soldiers won't do anything. They'll start killing the Palestinians. And there'll be a cry to push Gaza into the sea. Prophecy says Gaza's going to get wiped out, but there's a small amount of them that are going to come to Jehovah. And these could be lost tribes that many generations ago were forced into Mohammedanism to survive. And after 5, 6, 10, 12 generations, they lost track of who they really are. When you look at some of these Arabs and you look at the Israelites, it's hard to tell the difference sometimes. Some of them look Jewish. Some, if you live here years, you get to tell, you could spot them, but you can make mistakes too, easily, frequently. So there would be an amazing uprising in Israel against them, and that's not what Netanyahu wants. Well, maybe when Trump gets in office he wants it, but I don't think he wants it now. So there's probably no ceasefire with Gaza, and they're getting bombed and attacked a lot, artillery, bullets from soldiers and tanks and whatever. So they're getting a lot of surrenders now. We're getting a lot of Hamas surrendering. And they get questioned about the hostages, and they probably don't know. So this is taking us further and further away from a ceasefire. And why won't they tell us who's alive? They're obviously covering something up. So trouble is brewing in Gaza. Trouble is not really brewing in Syria. We just occasionally, once a week, twice a week, maybe even 3 times a week, find out about a weapons depot or a weapons factory, an arms factory or something like that, and we bomb it. And they blow it up. You're talking to me? The what's coming? Oh, I know. So I won't be on much longer. All right. So they, we're trying to get them, push them into a ceasefire, but they got themselves painted into a corner, I'm pretty sure. I can't think of another reason why they wouldn't tell us who's alive and dead. So that's where I'm at on that. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. In addition, once they do, if they ever do come up with a list of living hostages, then comes a discussion of how many terrorists you want us to release for each hostage, and they'll say 100, and stupid stuff like that. All right. I got a lot of other things here that are important news items I want to cover. On January 1, there was strange fog around the United States and also in Europe, especially over NATO countries. And people were saying, and now I haven't had all this confirmed by any governments or anything like that. This is mostly like on social media and TikTok and stuff like that. So I don't know. They're saying the cloud had a funny odor like sulfur and some other chemicals, and people were getting sick from it. And I don't know what to make of this yet. Um, I did know years ago they did a conspiracy on social media where they were showing people snow that wouldn't melt. You know, I don't know what it is. It could be some people running a hoax. It could be real. So at this point, I don't think there's been any real good confirms on it. So I would say uh, take it with a grain of salt, but keep your eyes out and open on this. We don't know. The Chinese respiratory illness epidemic is up to alarming levels, a 529% surge. People are in a mild form of panic in China. They're telling them to calm it down. And people are saying it could be another COVID epidemic 5 years later. It's apparently stemming from Wuhan, China, which is the same place the COVID came from. So people are fearful of lockdowns and things like this. Let me explain one thing to you. We know there's going to be terrorist attacks in the United States with the sleeper agents. We're very sure of that from prophecy in Jeremiah 50:51. And we've already seen terrorist attacks, but not the sleeper agents. These are lone wolves. Terrorist attacks will go down almost to nothing if there's a lockdown, because people aren't going to be congregating on the streets like in Mardi Gras in New Orleans in a few weeks in February, and like Times Square and New Year's Eve, and said they're not going to be doing that. They're going to be locked in their houses, telecommunicating to work, not going to work. So terrorism falls off a cliff if that happens. So do I think it's going to happen? Probably not, but I don't know. But yes, pestilence is one of the birth pangs, and that could include locusts and things like that, as well as the word can also include a COVID epidemic. So we don't know, but let's watch that one carefully. Okay, Iran is moving missiles to Western Iran, which is Elam, which is in the Bible prophecy for being destroyed completely, and then people have to leave to go to all the different nations, and then the sword chases them. That's in Iran, but Iran is larger than Elam. And that's where they apparently moved the missiles into Elam or near Elam. Elam is southwest Iran. It said they moved them to western Iran, and I'm assuming the south because it's closer to Israel. So I don't think this means a lot. Iran's been moving missiles around for months and nothing happens. It could be a fear tactic. I don't know what it is. They're afraid of getting attacked. I don't know. But at this point, just with that intel alone, I wouldn't go too far with it. Because it's happened before. 12 states are expected to get hit with a lot of snow, including DC, a foot of snow. And when this happens, people are going to turn on a lot of electricity in their house. Okay? They're going to be home and they're going to run on, and it could cause power outages. Okay, people could have car accidents and bang down power lines. So if this is a concern to you, which it doesn't necessarily have to be, and temperatures are quite low, of course you could just bundle up with a lot of good warm clothing. What I used to have for situations like this was, it's called a car sleeping bag. It's rectangular shaped. It's a rectangle. It doesn't have the shape of a, sleep in the woods sleeping bag, right? And they're generally very cheap. And Coleman, Coleman, sells them, and you can find them. They're very inexpensive. And I think they come in two levels. The first is down to 40 degrees, so that would be a fall, spring sleeping bag, not good enough for the winter. But the chances of your house going below 40 is pretty low unless it's, 10 degrees outside or something like that, and the power outage lasts a few days. They seem to have another version of car sleeping bags that goes down to 20 degrees, and I think that would do it. They're not expensive at all. They don't compress well. They're bulky to some extent, but you can get inside one of those in the bed and, you know, within its limits, stay pretty warm. Now, you can increase it by putting a blanket on the top of it and on the bottom of it, and you could probably take a 20-degree bag and get it down to zero just by putting a blanket on top and the blanket below. You know. So if this is a concern, you could take a look at those sleeping bags. It's a cheap way to deal with it. You know, if there's a lot of snow coming down, it's going to be very hard for you to jump in the car and drive to a nearby city and get a hotel and ride it out. Roads will be closed and it'll be treacherous out there. So just, be careful, and you might want to pray about that. Um, you might want to have, 2 or 3 or 4 days worth of food and water and stuff in the house, because the stores may not be getting shipments and things like that. So if it does snow, you're going to see a very serious decline in terrorism, if there is any terrorism going on. It'll stop. That's based on what I've seen in Israel on bad weather, and I have every reason to think it would still apply. North Korea did another missile test in the Sea of Japan, so they're cranking up their, antagonistic behavior again. Probably getting ready for Trump. Probably their position is going to be to play hardball with Trump. Do I think that this Chinese epidemic has got legs and it's going to grow and spread, and lockdowns and masks? It looks like it's headed that way, but these are end times and you never know. So I don't know yet. I don't know. It's very hard to figure out what's really going to happen on that. Um, we have to find out if it's real. Is this some scam of China? Is it really happening? What's going on? And what are they going to do about it, if they're going to do anything about it? And, stuff like that. I don't know. Um, Snow will bring an end to tourism based on to terrorism, based on my experiences in Israel. When there's bad weather, terrorism drops off. there's no targets. People aren't out. They're just staying home. They're not on the streets. They're not gathering. They're not, it's very hard. The same would apply with a lockdown. And we're pretty sure we're going to see terrorist events, and it may not be a lockdown. Is this going to cause people to rise up against the government? No, I don't think so. It's so far contained in China. Trump may go to severe measures to keep people out of America if he gets in with this. He probably would. The other problem they have with this epidemic is the people in America are going to scream bloody murder if this thing gets going and the borders are still open and they're flying in people from other countries. They're going to go livid. They're going to go nuts. And Biden may want that because Trump will inherit it. You're 14 days away. Just about anything that happens now, Trump inherits. Remember, America is weak now, but it's going to be a lot weaker starting January 19th. And they're giving all kinds of terrorist alerts for January 20th. They're thinking there's going to be a big terrorist attack someplace. They've even talking about a truck filled with explosives that could knock down a whole building or something like that. I don't know, okay? If there was a real terrorist attack where they were planning on knocking down a building and the FBI runs around and puts it in the newspaper, what's going to happen is they're not going to do that terrorist attack because they say, well, the FBI knows about it. They may try another terrorist attack in another location of another type of terrorism. Or they may not do it on that day. They may completely revise. Or they may decide to go through with it because they're jihadists and they don't care if they get killed. You don't know. These are some sick turkeys, okay? So that's pretty much what I got for today. Now, one other last thing. I'm not a doctor and I'm not a healthcare professional, but I do use the red lights, the near infrared and the red light. And I have noticed that when I get like cuts or, from thorns or something on my hands, they tend to heal up a lot faster than normal for somebody my age, And, they say you pull the skin up here to see how long it takes back to go back. Watch. If you could see. I can't even pull the skin up. It instantly pops back. I'm as old as Israel, and it just pops back like that. I can't even grab it. Look at the face. Look at my forehead. Where's the wrinkles? It's just the red light stuff. So I used to sit outside in the cold and, hold the iPad and my fingers would give me problems. They'd lock up and all that. Nothing anymore. Got rid of it. I had issues in my toes. I don't have that to any extent anymore like I used to. So I still get this neck thing, and I decided, I got rid of it in the hands, and I'm intensifying the red light more so on my neck. So it also, judging by what a lot of people say, if they get sick, I can't say I've had the personal experience because I've not. If they get sick, they get it milder and they get better, quicker and easier with this. And it's thought that it increases the immune system, working on the mitochondria. If that's of any interest to you, you need to understand that the red light industry is full of a lot of charlatans. And there's a few good devices out there, and there's a lot of junky devices out there. And I don't make any money with anybody, but if you're interested and you want to get one because you're fearful of the Wuhan thing going on or something else, don't be. Don't be fearful. But if you want to pursue it for some reason, just send me an email and I'll give you an idea of what type of devices I think are going to work and not work. Generally, they sell panels. Panels are good if you're a young person and you're athletic and you want your muscles to recover and stuff like that. But if you've got things wrong with you, you know, you want to get a small panel, a really good one, and you want to press it up against the body until it gets hot and then move it someplace else. But it works so much more efficiently when you push it against the body. When you stand in front of a panel, at least 70-80% of the red light coming out of the panel either misses your body or bounces off your body. Your body reflects it off. So most of it you don't get. So what they don't tell you, although some do, there's some honest people that tell you, they buy 4 panels or 6 panels or even more, and they put them together, and because they know they're losing about 80% of it. So if they're left with 20%, but it's multiplied by 4 or 6, then enough gets in. But if you just take a small panel, like a 12 by 9 or something like that, and hold it up against body parts for 1 or 2 minutes, and then move it to another body part, and you know, you got to be careful that when it gets hot, you move it, and then you can move it back when it cools off. Or you could even shut it off for 5 minutes and let it get down. So you need to get one that's not going to get hot, that's good, that's got the right wavelengths, that's got enough power, that has good fans in it to keep it cool. And you could also take a fan on a stand and blow it at the device while you're using it to keep it cooler. When it gets hot, it causes melatonin and a lot of water to congregate there, and then it stops the red light from penetrating into the body, so you got to move it away. So the idea is you want it against the body, but you don't want it to get hot. So you got to keep moving it, and that's, I mean, the other way you could do it is buy, you know, these big panels are usually at least $1,200, $1,000, and you could buy 6 of them, and you know, strategically position them so that or even 4 does a decent job. 6 is better. So you're flooding your body with it, you know, and yeah, you're going to lose 70-80% of it or more even, but so what? You know, you got 6 of them, you know. Or you could just buy a small, non-expensive panel and hold it up against the body, and you don't get any reflection, and it all gets in, and it penetrates deeper. And they don't tell you that, because these influencers are making money. They say, oh, buy this from this company and I'll get a commission and you get 5 or 10% discount. So they don't want to tell you can buy a relatively industry-wide speaking inexpensive panel and just hold it up against your body for the same amount of time that people stand in front of these panels, and you're going to get a much better dose. That's my 2 cents. I'll be glad to help anybody. You know, I usually tell them to buy it from the company direct or Amazon. You can buy some of these things from China, but they're kind of flaky. I don't know. Some of them are good. You don't know what, you know, it's a pig in a poke, you know. All right. That's what I got. But don't be fearful of all the stuff going on in the news. God's not out to kill his children, okay? You know, and, you know, what does it say? Go in the chamber and shut your door. It'll be over in a little time. Yeah, that sort of lends itself to a plague, doesn't it? But I don't think that's the intent. I don't know. You know, no evil shall come close to your house is another scripture, I think, in Proverbs or Psalms. You know, so don't worry about it. You know, keep praying, keep doing your spiritual warfare, and pray in the spirit, pray in the natural. Just keep praying, read your scriptures every day, and it's not going to take a lot longer. And just remember, your next milestone, as I see it, is Elijah here, and you'll be able to come here, I believe, and he'll be working. And this theory I had that there probably wouldn't be missiles and stuff raining down. Maybe I'm wrong about that. It's not a Bible-based thing. It's just I was thinking, how could the temple be here and him working with the Levites during all the missiles coming down? I don't know. Maybe it's the case and God just protects Jerusalem and the missiles never get in. I don't know. So maybe, because it looks like we're headed to another escalation in Israel. So maybe I don't know. I don't know. But I don't think we're ready for the trap in Zechariah 12 to spring yet. I don't think we're there yet. But I think we're very, 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 very close to Elijah working. And it may be with the ceasefire and it may be without. And for all I know, the ceasefires in Hamas may cave in. They're afraid of Trump and do a ceasefire. And Lebanon, the same thing. They may decide they'll honor the ceasefire. In Syria, I don't think Trump cares about. Iraq's afraid to do anything, and Trump may attack Iran. Biden may attack Iran before it's over. We don't know. And Yemen is definitely getting plowed. You know, you're going to have UK, US, Egypt, and Israel attacking them, and I'm sure that's going to increase. I think America's trying to build a coalition. And they'll probably bring in another one or two countries to start attacking Yemen as well. So there's nobody Yemen has to complain to. They're just going to be burning up. And look what they did. They brought it on themselves. And Yemen will be, Edom is Yemen, it will be a ruinous heap. So I'm Moshe. Please pray for me and my wife. Pray for our peace, safety, protection, joy, healing, and pray for our finances, and pray for better videos. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Pray for our animals and pets, that they be happy, healthy, and whole. And pray about coming over here. Pray if you think the Lord's going to move you here very soon. Why don't you pray about that? Ask Him about it. Why not? Okay? Because it says in Zechariah 12, Jerusalem's full of believers before the siege, and I don't see anybody there now, and I think to be a real believer, you need the true gospel. And you guys got it, and to the Jew first, then the Greek. Well, if you're a believer, you're in Yeshua, and that makes you a Jew, member of Judah. So there you're getting it. That could be one explanation. The other is you could be members of Judah and or Levi, and you don't know it. So I send my shalom to all those who are HaMashiach. I thank you for your prayers. I often think I'm writing on your prayers. And my praying in the Spirit has been getting elevated the last few days. And that's usually an exciting time ahead. And I'm out. Thank you.